Rugby Pod. Big Jim and Goody are with me as usual. We've got a full debrief on the Champions Cup quarterfinal action coming up, together with a little bit of Lions chat, and we're joined by none other than the Six Nations Player of the Championship, Hamish Watson, as well. Well, usually I'd start by asking how your week's been, boys, but no doubt you both got some thoughts that you'd like to share on Prince Philip today.
Obviously, big news at the weekend, sad news. Andrew, firstly, 99, 11 innings. What an absolute legend. I met him once, Prince Philip. He looked at me once. I looked at him at Tins's wedding in 2011, Goody. And I remember just looking at him and the whole royal family, obviously in awe. I didn't know I was a royalist until I was at Tins's wedding, and I couldn't stop looking at them and fanboying over them. And I just remember the speeches going on. Ian Bolshaw was best man doing the speech. And Prince Philip was just, yeah, go on.
With half his face missing as well, because he fell off a scooter a few days before.
Exactly, yeah. And I just remember looking at Prince Philip, like I'm thinking, because it was a pretty loose speech, and Prince Philip was just sat there with a massive smile on his face. I remember saying to Tins, I was like, mate, Prince Philip was absolutely loving the speeches. He said he probably didn't have a clue what was going on. He's nearly deaf in both of his ears, he says, but he just absolutely loves it. He just loves everyone being together and all the lads. But I remember thinking back in 2011 how well he looked for a man of his age. But yeah, our thoughts are obviously with everyone. Goody, I know you're a royalist, probably more so than me, but Prince Philip, what a legend.
Yeah, he is. Listen, I love the royal family. It's a very British trait that we've got, and I'm a big believer in that continuing. And it's massively sad. You hear the outpouring of emotion around the world, not only in Britain, but from all the people that he's touched, and obviously the family as well. We know a few of them. Obviously, it's Zara's granddad, so it's exceptionally sad. But yeah, you just see some of the things that go around, and you remember the impact that he's had, and the service that he's given our country is phenomenal. So hell of an innings. I remember the wedding as well, and I remember him walking past you, Jim, and he said that your kilt looked like his curtains back home at Buckingham Palace. So he had a great sense of humour, and so a lot of people will attest to that. So massive shame, and everyone's paying their respects in a rightful way. And our thoughts with everyone in the family and that's been affected by it around the world.
Have you managed to get out and about in the sunshine this week?
I have actually.
Have you, James?
You know what? I don't know whether millions of people out there know this. I'm an animal lover. I like animals, right? I like safaris, game reserves in South Africa. I'm not a fan of zoos. I put that on Twitter once, and it didn't get a great response off that because of the good stuff that some of the zoos do. But anyway, my point being, I've been out there in the open countryside over the last week with the kids. It's lambing season, right? So I'll tell you what, some really interesting shit that I didn't know. I didn't know that lambs could be born as triplets. I didn't know one sheep could give birth to 3 lambs. Apparently they can. They did. I saw it. We were there. Kids were involved.
You didn't think that was possible?
I didn't think that was possible, no. I thought 2 was kind of the most, and if there was triplet, it was a rarity.
Okay.
Well, twins are more common than just not having twins. Just a single lamb.
Well, there you go. The Kiwi knows. I didn't know any of this.
Trust me, a Kiwi knows everything about sheep, doesn't he? Look at him.
Well, let me tell you this. I tell you now. Now, here is a story for you. Talk about the circle of life, right? So there's a dead lamb, and I'm thinking, okay, it's died because of the cold or whatever. It's obviously been a bit of snow in Scotland this weekend.
Not because of ice.
Now, no dogs are involved. No dogs are involved, but a crow or a bird was involved. So JJ's gone up to it and said, Dad, what's happened? His eyes are missing and his guts are hanging out. And I know it sounds quite, it's quite, but this is life, right? This is happening. So my mate, who's the farmer, so from a socially distanced distance, of course, because of the situation we find ourselves in China and all that, he says to me that lamb is probably didn't even live past 5 minutes. So as soon as it was been born, the crows have come down, eaten his eyes, and then eaten his ass. Imagine having your eyes eaten and then not knowing who's eating your ass, and then you die. Could you imagine that?
What a thing to say. Imagine having your eyes eaten and then not knowing who's eating your ass. I don't think you're worried about not knowing who's eating your ass. I think you're more worried about your eyes are gone.
But this is whatever way you look at it. Now, it might sound, the vulgarities of it sounds horrid, but this is happening out there on our doorstep. And I thought, you know what? I know we're having a little bit of a joke about it. You don't want to joke about it, but it is happening. But very educational for the kids. You know, and all the sustainability stuff that's all happening now, and, you know, grow your own, eat your own, share your own. But then if you're sharing it, you're not eating it your own. I don't really get it, but just do it on your own, basically. And that's what we're out there showing the kids. And I was horrified, but they were quite intrigued by the circle of life last week.
Well, at least we had some rugby to keep us company throughout the lockdown, and it always looked like the pick of the quarterfinals. The game at Sandy Park didn't disappoint either, did it?
It didn't. And you look at all 4 quarterfinals. Saturdays were brilliant. Sundays, not so much.
Abysmal.
But just the French.
Absolutely abysmal.
Just blame the French. But yeah, let's start off at Sandy Park then, because that was a phenomenal game, wasn't it? Both sides going at each other, hammer and tongs. Exeter going to a 14-0 lead. Some horrific refereeing decisions come out for both teams. Loads of points to debate around the tackle and Johnny Hill and Yanis Kirsten in the second half. But the better team won in the end. Exeter haven't been playing as well as they did last year in the Premiership. Obviously, last weekend against Lyon, they made quite a few errors, but their class and power game got them through in the end. But they've come up against a champion team, and you know, Leinster are a champion team. You look at the squad they've got, and we've had Lanny on here, and you know, numerous other players that have been and are in that Leinster setup. You know, Sexton goes off early, and I'm sure Jim will make the point that it's probably time for him to retire. Jim, why being horrible? Byrne comes on, and he's phenomenal. Exeter will be a bit disappointed within themselves, though. Credit Leinster, they deserve to win. But Exeter will look back on it, and I hate to say it, Jim, he's a friend of the show, he's a top bloke, he's a brilliant player. Hoggy's had a bit of a mare for 2 of their tries, and in tight contests, you kind of nitpick around big opportunities, and I just think Hoggy's defence hasn't stood up really to the test of you know, that top level just on this one occasion. There was one in the first half as well when Keenan gets the offload away around the back of Hoggy's back. He's second man into the tackle. You've got to go and end it and prevent the offload as well. James Lowe scores off that. And then the second try comes from a line out from a penalty that Matthew Reynolds had an absolute mare. It was never a penalty to Leinster. They came in at the side. Someone's gone off their feet. There's hands on the floor all over the place. Anyway, Leinster get the penalty, kick it into the 22. They play a lovely move off the line out. And Hoggy just gets caught a little bit too tight, and Lama scores in the corner. So just like, and it's knockout rugby, quarterfinals, semi-finals, whatever it is of Champions Cup. Sometimes it's the minute details that are the difference between winning and losing games. And unfortunately, Exeter off the pace. Slightly.
Well, you mentioned that. You mentioned last week, because I actually went back because I couldn't remember what we picked. So I was thinking, who am I supporting here? Because I can't remember who I picked. So I went back and on the YouTube and looked through who picked who. You went for Exeter and I went for Leinster. But I mean, I was on an R, of course it was. I was on the fence. But
I'm pretty sure you said Exeter.
No, I said Leinster.
Did you?
I promise. Yeah, I went back and listened to it. You went for Exeter, I went for Leinster. But the comments you made around Exeter were right. They've not been the same team that they have the last couple of years for whatever reason. And we spoke about Leinster missing the game against Toulon the week before, so how would they be? But mate, they were brilliant, weren't they? Some standout performance in that Leinster team. Josh van der Fleer in the back row, Rhys Ruddock as well. I mean, the whole pack was phenomenal, really. Yeah. Henshaw in the centre, James Lowe, who arguably didn't play amazing for Ireland in the Six Nations defensively, but they were just better, weren't they? That was it. That was it. And
Big Dev,
I don't know. Big Dev played really well.
Yeah.
Big Dev, I thought, played really well. You know, bringing on Ryan Beard again. Maybe that.
He's good, isn't he?
I'll tell you now, he's going to be the best out of all of them.
Is he? Better than James Ryan?
I think so, yes.
Because he nicked a crucial line out as well, didn't he? Which led to Lama's try in the second half. 5 minutes
he effectively, against Scotland as well, got the charge down on Ali Price, and then Henderson got the turnover, and that was all she wrote. But yeah, the Leinster, they you know, to be 14-0 down and to come back, you know, you're thinking around the Saracens game we spoke about last week, could they be in a situation like that this time round? But no, I thought they were very, very good. Yeah. And I'm sure we'll talk about it The ref.
Oh, you guys both tweeted about Johnny Hill's tackle. Do you guys want to give your thoughts on whether or not that should have been a card?
Oh, it should. IMO, whether or not I personally think it should have been a card, it doesn't really matter what I think personally anymore. Professionally, and we can probably talk about it more, Goody, because there's loads of instances over the weekend. Something's clearly happened within the referees' WhatsApp chat where they said, look, let's try not to card people this weekend, please, and not be the talk of the town. But Johnny Hills, for me, was a definite yellow. Minimum.
Why?
Connected with the head, with force. So
did they say that there wasn't much force though? And this is the thing, because it's a secondary contact, isn't it? I think his first part of the contact that he makes is legal. It's shoulder under the height of the neck or head area of, who did he smash?
The 10, Ross Byrne.
It's, when he first makes contact, it looks like a dream tackle because he smashed him below the head and neck line. It is borderline, but it's perfectly legal. But then it's the follow through of his arm, isn't it, that catches him in the mush. So that's where the debate lies, whether there's contact in the head. I didn't think it was a red card at all. You can make a case for a yellow or
it would have been it would have been a red card. It would have been a red card a few months ago, even last week or the week before. I think that would have been given as a red card. Kirsten's definitely would have been a red card, in my opinion. But they're hard because like we're sat here debating them, so it must be difficult. The thing is around the cards is the TMO is desperate for him to pull a card out.
He wasn't. He was so keen. It is his face.
Are you sure? He said just a penalty. But yeah, I mean that's the thing. Johnny Hills, he's got to be careful.
Yeah.
One thing on Johnny, he's boycotted the podcast for whatever reason. He's mates with all the England lads. He must be best mates with, I don't know, Ford and Rob Shaw and all these other people that Goody calls out.
I think it's you, mate. It's you and Faz.
Was it? Okay.
Faz doesn't like you, and he's told the boys not to come on the podcast.
I've put Faz as the captain of the Lions, but Johnny Hill, I actually think he looks bigger, more athletic than he did for England. I don't know how he's put on so much weight. Anyway, that was maybe because I just saw him in slow-mo, but I don't know. He's just got to be a little bit careful, hasn't he? Because that's one, like Kirsten comes on, he's flying out the line, puts a massive shot in, he's out of control, and there's loads of them at the weekend. I think for me, watching it now, there's a frustration is like, why are you doing that now?
Yeah.
Well, why are you putting yourself at risk?
That's the big thing, isn't it? It's changing the behaviour. And part of the reason for World Rugby to make these changes is the fact that defences have had the upper hand for quite some time and allowing teams to fly off the line uncontrolled and go and belt people. And now you've got to be controlled in contact. So yeah, massive question marks around it. It didn't affect the game really, did it? Because Leinster went on to win. Leinster were superb. And you sit there and you think, the only thing for Exeter for me is, and I tweeted about it as well, 9 points down, Stu Townsend, you've got the easiest kickable penalty with 10 minutes to go.
Tap and go.
No, don't tap and go, son. Take the easy 3, bring it back to 6, and then you've got 8 minutes. That changes actually how Leinster can defend because it's a one-score game. And we all know now that, giving penalties away, you can give penalties away and the game can keep going to the 90th minute if you want to, by just keep kicking its touch. So that was a bit of a brain freeze from Exeter. Stu Townsend, pretty disappointed with himself, I'm sure. And Rob Baxter alluded to it, didn't he? Going off script a bit. But sometimes the pressure that the opposition have put on you and Leinster champion team put Exeter under the pump. The breakdown was where they dominated as well, wasn't it?
They made a thing on a talk on comms, didn't they, Goody, about Tim will know more, producer Tim, because he does all the stats. The Exeter don't compete that much at the breakdown, whereas Leinster always go hard. Whoever's playing for them, Herring, Furlong, Porter, obviously all of the back row. So and maybe we could talk about it after the referees. Like that's the French referees allow contest. You can be on your elbows, you can be on your edge, you can be on your arse, you can still compete for ball. So if you're Leinster, you're well happy going into that game, but Exeter, they don't compete. But again, it's a season with no fans. There's a part of me that's kind of glad, because I think next time Exeter go for it, imagine Exeter being in the Champions Cup we spoke about last year and going through the knockout stages with fans. So just wait until next year. Clermont the same. And we'll go full ding dong. Let Leinster get their 5th star, because the rest of the games were absolutely toilet compared to that.
You touched on Robbie Henshaw before, Jim. Surely the starting line spot's his now.
Well, what I should say about Robbie Henshaw, and again, I don't want to categorise lads that need haircuts and don't need haircuts, or do their own haircut. He needs a haircut. So he desperately needs a haircut, especially before the Lions photos get taken. I don't know when they get taken, but I imagine hairdressers might be open outdoors, indoors, different in Ireland, Northern Ireland, Wales, Scotland and England political, but he needs a haircut. But he's a fantastic player, that is for sure. He was class for Ireland. He's physical. He doesn't look that big, and I judge a man by his arms.
He is, mate.
But he doesn't like on. And I spoke to Ravo's arm about Victor Vito from La Rochelle. He's like, "Oh, slug!" I walked past him in the corridor. He's massive. I was like, "Mate, you've got a full-on dad body. He obviously looks big." But you look at like Will Skelton for La Rochelle looks huge. You know, James Ryan, Reece Ruddock look massive. Tag Furlong. But for me, I don't. Is Henshaw that big? What was he? 90 kgs, 95?
Yeah, probably about that. 95, maybe. But let's Google it, shall we?
He ain't 100 kgs.
I think he's 100 He's 6'2", 6'3". Let's have a Google. It says 99 on Wikipedia, so you can always add 5 or 6 onto that. Trust me.
So he is. So I'm right. So he is 94. Or you mean he could add 95?
Yeah, I reckon he's 106 clicks, 105 clicks.
Wow.
But he's powerful, mate. He's and this is the big thing. There's all this Lions debate going on at the minute around who should be in, who's not going to be in. We did our own test teams 2 weeks ago, but if you're picking the here and now, 100% Henshaw was starting in the centres. And the beauty of Henshaw is he can play 12 and 13. So if you're picking your Lions test team now to play a test tomorrow, he's 100% in it. But there's so much water to go under the bridge between them. The squad doesn't get announced till, I think it's the first week in May or something like that. So we've still got another 4 or 5 weeks till the squad gets announced. And then the Lions tour is still a long way away. And what did you tweet? It's going on in Dubai or something, Jim?
Yeah, I had a few gin and tonics again. I don't know what. My fingers just start getting a bit fiddly. I've heard rumours again that there's talk of that, but again,
Faf mentioned that as well, didn't he?
Oh, Faf mentioned that there was talk of it being in Dubai before it got announced to be in South Africa. But anyway, tell the eat that. If it's in Dubai, as much as I love going to Dubai, I can't see me going in June or July where it's 65 degrees.
Can't see it being played there either.
There's no English teams in the semi-finals of the Champions Cup either after Sale, well beaten by La Rochelle. They look a bit tired after the 6-day turnaround, do you think?
I feel awful as well because Faf got not yanked off at half. I feel bad. I feel awful. Faf got taken off at 60 minutes and I'm thinking as he's walking off, is he blaming us? That's what I'm thinking.
I don't think he is, Jim. I don't think he is.
No, he's not. No, he's not. He's blaming the physicality and the size of La Rochelle. Very good team.
Yeah, they are. And this is the thing, you mentioned it then, Andy. 6-day turnaround in knockout rugby is crazy. The way the fixtures have fallen, the way they could have fallen. La Rochelle played Gloucester on the Friday night, didn't they, of the last 16 game? And then you've got Sale going to Scarlets on the Sunday. So effectively, La Rochelle going back home, they've had an 8-day turnaround. Sale have had a 6-day turnaround. They've got to get home from Scarlets. I know that's not a big thing, but you lose a day's training. You've also got your travel to France involved as well. So for them to have a 6-day turnaround, I thought was horrific. But you look at the game and you look at the class and power and everything that La Rochelle had. I think they're always going to win that game. Again, a couple of points that Sale will learn from. And Alex Sanderson said this, they'll learn from their mistakes in this game. The try just after half, the 10 minutes after the half time were crucial. The try from Hammersley, the try that Raymond Rule scored off the back of the line out. And if you want to get into the nitty gritty of defending the tail of a line out, Curry has gone inside McGinty. They're trying to get some line speed. They've flown off the line. Curry's got left behind slightly. He's overchased. La Rochelle are only attacking with their back line. They haven't gone to a 6-man line out. And then to get beaten on the inside at the back of a line out when you've got no tail gunner off the back of the line out, Curry's got left behind, then over chases to get to Ohio West when there's the inside ball to Raymond Rule. Then he finishes pure class. So that was one error, and then Hammersley's error as well. 2 tries in 10 minutes, and La Rochelle, once they got a 14-point lead, there was no way that Sale were going to come back from that. So Sale have done exceptionally well, and it's like anything, it's a growth stage, isn't it? Alex Armstrong knows that from his time at Saracens. They lost plenty of sort of knockout games until they got that dominance in the competition. Everyone's done it. Sale are a team that are coming through, and they're going to be here for a few years with the structures they've got in place at the club, the head coach, the players, etc. And they'll learn from that, and hopefully we'll bounce back better for it next year. But La Rochelle, a proper team, proper power, unbelievable players, in key positions. Victor Vito, absolutely ridiculous offload for the first try, World Cup winner.
I did tweet that as well. That offload was ridiculous.
Yeah. Did you have that in your locker?
Well, I had it in the locker, but I never opened the locker. So I don't even. I wouldn't. If I was Gregory Aldry or Ori, it would have probably come off my head as well, because I wouldn't expect anyone to have that in the locker. But he's an All Black, so he did.
What did you guys make of the All French quarterfinals on Sunday? No tries in either of the games.
Yeah, Bordeaux Racing. You're thinking, here we go, Jouet. I mean, I don't know whether to blame the players or blame Matt Carley, even though he had the impossible task. He should have just been like, fuck this, just let him go. Just let him play. It was absolutely dreadful. It's arguably one of the worst games I've ever seen. It was like, because you mentioned it last week about they obviously know each other really well, and because it's a European Cup game, Heineken Champions Cup, that Racing will probably turn up because it's a big game. They've got history in the competition. It genuinely looked like they couldn't be asked, and it was just like whatever. They looked like none of them knew the rules or the laws. Yeah. None of them have studied the referee, because one of the things you talk about the highest level is you study the referee. Yeah. You'll get given a load of information on what he's big on, the breakdown.
Or Jim, maybe they don't in France because it's France.
Well, they clearly don't. That's what I mean. It was everything and anything. Yeah. Like around the breakdown, hands in, you're on your elbows, not 10 meters from the scrum or the line out. It was just like it was absolutely dreadful. And this is what I mean. We can talk about the game after the Austin Healey. I thought he nailed it on the head with that game, and we can talk about them points after. But I got nothing for you,
mate. And talking about it, you can actually now see and understand. I can understand from those French 2 teams' perspective, Bordeaux and Racing, why they're doing that at the breakdown, why it is just lawless effectively at times, because the French referees are so bad, and we say it on here regularly. The French referees just go, play does not better, and then the French teams get an English ref, and it does beg the question, and I know you have to have neutral referees in the Champions Cup, but when you got 2 French teams, maybe in COVID and China and the way the situation is now, maybe just let a French ref have it, because then it might be a better game, because anything goes and it could be a bit better. Whereas Matt Carley's refereeing it the way World Rugby want him to referee the game, and the French should just play in a different game, aren't they? So it wasn't a great spectacle. You've seen Mathieu Reynal refereeing Exeter against Leinster and just letting anything go and penalising the wrong things here, there and everywhere. I felt a bit sorry for the Racing and Bordeaux boys, because they're probably looking at Matt Carley going, what's he on about? Because they're used to the bang average French refs that have just been pulled off the street saying, actually, you'll do today, here's a whistle, have a dig. Whereas Matt Carley has reffed it. For a viewer watching the game, you're following Matt Carley and going, he's dead right. Everything he's given pretty much is the right decision. Yet the French boys are like, this is not possible.
Austin Healey made the funniest comment I've ever heard in my life.
Go on.
So Racing had a penalty in front of the sticks to level it 21-all, which obviously would have put it into extra time. And he said, quote unquote, I've never in my life wanted someone to miss a kick so much. So a Ribrahen puts the ball in front of the sticks, and he's saying that because, and it's like, you're thinking, should a commentator be saying that? No, he's absolutely right. Yeah. Who wanted to 100%. See extra time? It was like, so I know he got a bit of stick. There was a helicopter going over the stadium, and that was kind of the highlight of the game as well. But, you don't want to go too hard, because ultimately the lads are out there giving it the raw, and there'll still be physical parts to that. But as an advert for the game compared to the Leinster, Exeter, and compared to some of the games we've seen this season in the Heineken Champions Cup and even in the Challenge Cup as well. But we know going into the semi-final that it could arguably look very different.
Well, we can have a bit of a break now from the Champions Cup action and have a chat to the man who was named Six Nations Player of the Championship a week or so ago. Hamish Watson joins us. How are you, mate?
Yeah, very good. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Hamish, it's great to have you on. Now, I don't want to be calling you out as a big timer, but I did say on the phone to you, if this was 2015, you would have wanted to come on every single week. We missed you last week. We had to get another man with a great lid, in fact, the clerk. It's great to have you, but do you want to explain to the millions? They might know if they watch #AlwaysEdinburgh, they might not know, but why you boycotted us last week?
I think you mentioned it, but I got I got asked to come on by you guys, obviously, and I was very grateful for it. But it was it just happened. It was before the Racing game, and obviously the Racing game didn't go too well for me and my fellow Gunners. So yeah, we got beaten well at Racing. So I didn't think it was appropriate for me to come on the pod and talk rugby and chat rugby when we just been battered by Racing. So we've gone for it this week, and I'm happy to be on. And it's 11 o'clock at night PM. Yeah, excited to be here, guys.
Well, mate, listening to you is great. It's great having you on, and I forgive you for last week. So I understand Cockers is an angry little man. Perhaps you can't say that, but yeah, taking a good hiding over in Racing probably wasn't the best thing. But I actually can't understand what you're saying. But that Scottish accent is coming through like you wouldn't believe. Born in Manchester, that's in Scotland somewhere as well, isn't it? Leicester Tigers Academy. Yeah,
it's on the borders, mate.
Leicester Tigers Academy. You should have played for England, pal. You're the best player in the Six Nations, but you're English.
No. No, I'm not. No, I obviously get the accent thing a lot, but I followed my superstar. I went a similar route to him, Big Jim.
Oh, thank you, Mish. I love your hair. Whatever I said. Just Mish, tell us a bit about your background then, because people would be intrigued to know. And now you are a worldwide, wide household name in rugby, and fully deservedly so. But a lot of people kind of put Scots who don't have Scottish accents because it is a thing. Oh, he's not Scottish. Hamish Watson, arguably the most Scottish name you can get. But maybe just give us a bit of your backstory about how you've evolved to become the Guinness Six Nations player of the tournament.
Most people may know I'm obviously not born in Scotland, so I've got a Scottish grandparent on both sides of the family, and my dad was always a Scotland fan. So when I was being brought up in England, down south in Manchester, in my family anyway, I followed what my dad was doing, and my dad was a big Scotland rugby fan. So that's what I did. I just followed what he did, I guess, and got taken to Murrayfield at a young age and stuff like that, and have always sort of grown up supporting Scotland and tried to get done the Scottish Exiles stuff at a young age. Went to Oakham School and always sort of did the Scottish Exiles pathway. And I think I tried to get into Scotland under 18s. I actually didn't get in. Under 19s.
Too small.
Too small, yeah. And then under 19s, actually I probably was too small back then. I was probably 85 kilos back then, under 18s. And then under 19s, got to finally play for Scotland. That was my first age grade cap. And then went to Tigers Academy. So I did that at school, went to Tigers Academy, and that's all. I obviously only did a year there, but I was really grateful for my time there, because when you get a big name like Tigers Academy behind you, I think that sort of helped me get into the Scotland 20s and get into the World Cups, the Junior World Cup squad for Scotland. And then ever since then, I did a year at the academy, didn't get kept on there, and I've sort of got offered a great opportunity on the back of the Junior World Cup to go do a sevens and academy contract up in Edinburgh, which was great. And I've been at Edinburgh ever since.
Yeah, you have it. And you said you followed Jim's pathway. I see it completely differently. You've chosen to play for Scotland because of your heritage. Even though you were down at Leicester and the academy there, you always wanted to play for Scotland. The difference is with Jim had a rose tattoo on his arse, and he just didn't want to play for Scotland. He wanted to play for England. He just wasn't good enough.
It was on my arm. It was a rose. It was a rose thistle tulip on my arm. So let's get the details right.
It's great to have you on, though, and let's go back to the Six Nations. What a performance! First and foremost, let's just go to the big game. when you had England's pants down at Twickenham, and I can say that as a proud Englishman. It's been a long time coming, I think, for a lot of Scottish people. But that day and how the Six Nations started for you and the team especially, couldn't have gone any better. It was pure dominance in that game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was an amazing game. We went down there believing we could beat England. I think it's been something like 38 years since we had won there. So that's it's ridiculous when you think about it. We had some of the guys on. We did like a weekly thing with Scotland where we'd get old players on Zoom and stuff, and we had a few of the guys on who won it in the 38 years ago, the last team to win it, and it's ridiculous to think that we haven't won it since then. So it was a great performance by us, and yeah, it was an amazing game. It was probably the best game of our tournament, which was a shame because it was our first game. But yeah, it was a great day for everyone and the coaches and everyone back home as well. It's been a tough year for everyone, and I think when you saw some of the fan reactions going around on Twitter and like some of the kids' reactions and stuff like that, it was a great day and a really proud day for all the fans and the players.
What's been the shift, Hamish, in this Scotland squad? I think everyone's seen it. It seems like it's been brewing, and we've said it since I played 15 years ago or whatever it was. But there's always the talk, isn't there? And we've been in squads together where it's coming, it's building, it's our year. But I think ever since the World Cup, and it wasn't great in Japan, let's be honest, the Ireland game and then obviously the Japan game at the end. But ever since then, there seems to be a real shift. And there seems to be an even bigger shift since last Six Nations, where there was a fallout between Gregor and Finn. I don't expect you to go into detail about that or whatever. It's old news now. But what has the shift been now? We've now got strength and depth. Hoggy's now an established leader. We've now got quality throughout our team. But as a player in the middle of it, have you felt that shift? Yeah, definitely. I think obviously in 2017 and 2018, those Six Nations games, I think we won 3 out of 5 as well, and we were sort of heading in the right direction. And it seemed like you say we were on a good route there, and then we sort of took a big step backwards in 2019 where we didn't do too well in the Six Nations, and then we had a bad World Cup as well. And since then, I think it's just been a big buy-in from all the players. It's a very tight group of boys. I think this COVID year has definitely helped with that sort of stuff as well. Like the bonds are obviously I always think they're strong in the camp, but as players now, I think we've got such a great group of guys, and I think boys who have come in, take for example Wilkes, who came in for that last France game, I think he could really feel the difference as well. It's just a very tight group now, and I think it always was, but there's no, you could have one cap or 80 odd caps. Everyone's sort of on the same level. I think that's a really good place to be in. You spoke about Hoggy there, and Hoggy's been amazing. I think he's obviously, when he first got the captaincy, people didn't know. People were like, oh, he's not very experienced with it or whatever it was, but he's done amazingly well with the captaincy role, and I think it's someone who a lot of the players look up to, and his leadership group as well have been really good. So I think it's just a big buy-in from all the players and the coaches. I think the coaches have been great. You can have a beer with them after the games, and you can talk to them about family stuff, and I think that helps as well, because you obviously need to respect your coaches and stuff like that, but you also, I think it's important to be able to switch off with them as well, which sometimes in some other environments that may not happen. I think that's really important as well. So so that's obviously really well done by the coach as well to sort of bring that environment.
Yeah, definitely. Let's go back to the Six Nations again then and chat through the Wales game next up for you boys. Bitter pill to swallow a bit really, with the red card as well for Xander Ferguson, when you look like you're probably going to win the game, and you got in a bit of trouble for some of the comments you made as well around that. I can't not ask you about it. And I'm glad it brings a smile. I'm glad it brings a smile to your face, because there is so much debate week in, week out, isn't there, at the minute, around the laws and how they're interpreted, with clean outs and hits to the head and stuff like that. How do you feel as a player, someone that's physical, someone that's involved in all these breakdowns, someone that didn't give a penalty away in the Six Nations as a back rower, which is absolutely phenomenal?
Flabbergasted.
Unbelievable. How do you feel about the way things are, and any comments on that one?
Yeah, I think it's so tough. I mean, like, especially after that Wales incident, you saw in the weeks after that, just red card after red card, and it's so hard, because I think where after I cooled off from the things I said, and I looked at it, obviously by the letter of law, it is a red card, and by you've got player safety is the main thing, and obviously Wyn Jones could have been hurt. So I understand that what I said was wrong, and I didn't put it across in the best way. But what I was meaning was, I just think I think you can almost, every other ruck, you could give a red or a yellow card. And that's the problem at the moment with rugby. So yes, by the letter of the law, that's 100% a red card. And the other ones we've seen are probably red cards. But I think sometimes there needs to be a bit of room there. But it's so tough, like you say, because it's all about, the concussions and the stories you're hearing at the moment going around with some ex-rugby players. It is really, they've got to look after the players. So I think it is a red card, but it's, like I say, it's a hard one because we all know we've all played rugby, and that stuff goes on quite a lot.
Yeah, and Mish, on that, so when you're in the change room, remember when your vice captain used to speak to the team, and I used to basically shout, "Let's get out there and just fucking smash them, fuck them up," and you're using terminology, right, from the bloody Coliseum where you're going out there to not play rugby. But I think back to how I used to live my life as a young man, as a professional rugby player, and that terminology was being used constantly. Get off the line, fucking smash them, physically impose yourself. You're talking about these violent words. Is it the same now or not? I mean, because Goody alluded to it. You didn't give away a penalty, and there's a number of players that are extremely physical. That are the same. Tipperick's the same. He's a very clean player. There's instances from the weekend as well. But do you talk in that? I mean, I remember we had a defensive line, the blitz line, which was basically get off the line physically, was called kill. Yeah. So we used to scream kill, and we'd be in the line, kill, kill, kill. And you think about it. I mean, is there a shift now in terminology in the way that you speak? You speak about these things.
Well, you'd have been shouting it from the bench, wouldn't you, Jim?
No, he was only on the bench for 4 times to Scotland when they won.
I think the problem with it, like, you have to, like you say, it's such a physical sport, and if you almost don't go in with your physicality right, everyone would have had those days where you're not physically at that point that you need to be at to play a game of rugby. And I think that's when you tend to get hurt if you're not switched on and you haven't brought that sort. So they're probably, the coaches and staff and stuff like that, probably trying to get away from using words like that. But I still think you still need to almost go in with that attitude. It's a physical sport, and at the end of the day, what you're doing can hurt people, even when you do it in the cleanest ways. You know what I mean? So I think it is a tough one. I think you've got to, if you don't go in with the right attitude, you're going to end up getting hurt as well. So it's just trying to keep it as clean as possible. And now there is a lot more coaching, especially towards the back end of this season. And they are saying, like, you need to watch out for this, watch out for even doing a hold up. You get someone around the neck and it's going to be a card and stuff like that. So I think the coaches are trying to bring it into the game. But like you say, you're doing everything at such a quick tempo that, stuff does go wrong, because if you're not fully committed, then you're going to end up hurting yourself as well. I don't think any player goes in thinking, the ones where they haven't wrapped an arm and they end up hitting them in the head. I don't know no players deliberately doing that. So I think it's just tough, and they're going to have to obviously monitor it for the next few seasons now.
And how hard is it for you as a player, someone that is at the forefront of most collisions in the game, in changing those behaviours? Because Jim and I talk about it on here, it's in the press, the way you see some people still going in upright, trying to smash people up high. Obviously it's difficult to change behaviours, but you said it then, there's loads of work going in from the coaches. You must have seen a big shift in coaching techniques and training sessions where the focus has changed massively from that choke tackle downwards.
Yeah, well, I think it's really hard. I think for some players, I remember I always used to be a low chop tackler, and then when Alan Solomons and Omar came in, our defence system was all about tackling high, and you all had to tackle high and hold up and slow the ball down by going high. So then to change your attitudes, then you change it back one way, then a new defence coach comes in. And I think that is quite hard. So if players now are with their club team who maybe okay, we're going to choke and we're going to tackle high and slow the ball by doing that instead of jackling, and then they go back to their international setups and give away a few penalties for getting their body shapes wrong or for going too high, I think it is tough. It's tough to change just in a 12 or however long Six Nations, 8-week camp. I think that is really tough. So whether you go, all right, well, now you can only tackle below the waist, but then when you actually look at the concussion stats for that, that's normally, or I think there's a higher percentage of people who are getting head knocks from getting their head bashed off the hip or on a kneecap as well. So it's tough, because if you're tackling high, the attacker's at risk, but if you're tackling low, the defender's at a high risk of getting concussed as well. So it's just it's a physical sport, isn't it? It's just going to be I think as long as we're taking the right precautions after someone gets concussed, I think that's the main thing. You know, you do the protocols, you go for all the right things. No one's scared of going to the doctor or their coach now. Listen, I just got a bang on the head. I don't think I'm right. Where I think that's what needs to change, because the game's not going to change. I think, well, hopefully it won't change. You know, it's a physical game, and that's why people love it. So I think as long as the protocols after you getting head knocks changes, then which it is, I think that's the way it's going to have to go.
Yeah, no, message. It's great to chat to you about these things because they are topical, but they're also quite difficult subject matters to talk about because of everything that's happening at the minute. And I think chatting to you, a player that's at the forefront of everything that's good about rugby, but the physicality as well, it's class to be able to talk to you about that. Let's go on to something positive. Not that that was a negative, but it was quite deep. The game against France in Paris. Now, all I'm thinking, and I forgot about the situation that we were in, was I'm thinking China Whites, VIP, whatever it's called in Paris, where I was with Kanye West having lost 47 points to 5 against France in Paris. But it was under 50, so it felt like a victory. How good was that win? And out of the England and the France game, because they were 2 historic wins for Scotland, which one was the best?
Yeah, it's tough, and like you say, it would have been great to actually go out and celebrate those wins as well with if we would have been allowed with everyone in town. But it's it's tough to say. England it's always great beating England. You know what it's like. It's
I don't. No, I don't.
It's our main rival, and after 2019, that nuts game, that draw, I think winning at Twickenham was a really special moment for all the players. But the France one was great as well. Obviously, I've never won at Stade de France. None of the boys haven't. No one's done it since '99, so that's pretty obvious. But so I think that was great as well. But I think for me, the England game.
Yeah, that hurts me to hear that. But yeah, I'll probably have to agree, to be honest. Let's talk about how did you find out that you were named the Guinness Player of the Six Nations, and have you got a lifetime supply of Guinness as the prize? Because it must be, such a high accolade. There's got to be something big in there for the player.
I know. I was waiting for my lifetime supply of Guinness, but no, it hasn't come yet. It's just I found out. Obviously, you got the nominations, and I didn't know about that at all. I just sort of saw it on social media, and I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool!" Like, got nominated for player of tournament. There's obviously so many good players who got nominated, so I was like, "Oh well, it is what it is. It's great to get nominated, but it's down to the fans now. So just see what happens." And then we actually had a team meeting at Edinburgh on the Wednesday, I think it was, and it was getting announced on the Friday, and the media manager at Edinburgh came over to me and said, "Oh, I'm really sorry, mate. We've got a player appearance for you to do." And it's like, you've just finished Six Nations. You've had quite a few player appearances to do over the last 8 weeks. And I was like,
Kitching, yeah.
I was like, all right. Okay. I was like, kitching, not in Scotland.
Not in Scotland, mate.
Not in Scotland, Judy. You don't know what it's like. But yeah, so he was like, "Yeah, you got a player appearance to do for BT, or you got to keep the sponsors happy or something." So I was like, "Yeah, right, okay, no worries." And he was like, "Oh, and can you wear Scotland kit?" So I was like, "All right, okay, yeah, no worries." And then obviously I got on the call that night, and it was just like Hoggy smiling at me, and I was like, "Oh, have you been roped into this as well?" sort of thing. Then Hoggy, it was a complete surprise basically. So they did. I didn't see it coming, and it was a really proud moment for me. And it's like I said on the Zoom call, it's not about personal stuff, but it was quite cool to get the recognition off the fans as well, because obviously it was voted by the fans, which is really nice.
I can't even imagine what it was like, Hamish, to be honest. But it was greatly deserved, and you probably don't realise as much now. I know it's a big accolade, but just imagine, when you retire and you're sat in your armchair with your kids, and you can think back to that moment. It's huge, especially like you said, with the quality of players and how good the tournament was as well this year, albeit with no fans. And then off the back of that, and the momentum that gathers, Mish, around a Lions year. And again, it's difficult, isn't it? Because you're obviously not going to say, no, you don't want to go. You want to go. Of course you want to go. Everyone wants to go. But can you feel the momentum gathering around yourself, apart from Stephen Jones? Who knows what he's talking about in the Times? Wrote an article today saying you're too small, but he said that I should have been a 2-time tourist with the British Irish Lions, so he does know a little bit about what he's talking about.
Mate, he knows that. What a mug he is. That's clickbait. What a mug.
But Miss, can you feel the momentum gathering? You're obviously on social media. It's a natural thing. You know, you're one of the millennials on there. Your mates and that are into rugby. And if you are feeling the momentum and the kind of heat leading up to the tour, how do you feel about it all?
Yeah, it's a weird one. I mean, obviously, Scotland had a great Six Nations, and we sort of said at the start of the tournament as well that I think it was always the thing that Scotland couldn't win away games, and we don't really win much away from home. But we've done pretty well with that, and you know, we beat Wales in 2020, and then France and England. So I think that's helped Scotland players out. Sorry, a bit. I think we're all playing in the squad pretty well. So you'd like to think there'd be more than 2 players on it back in 2017 anyway. So I think quite a few boys have put their hands up and stuff like that, and there's a few boys on form. For me personally, like you say, I think there's obviously a bit of momentum, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter about momentum, because I'm a strong believer that, you know, like someone like Manu should probably go, because I think he's a great player and he's not played for gosh knows when. I don't know the last time he played, but I would have him on the tour. So I don't think momentum's a big thing and form's a big thing, but but I don't know. It's up to one man, I guess, and the rest of his coaches. So listen, obviously it would be amazing to go on the Lions tour, but at the same account, I feel like I've sort of played quite well in the Six Nations, and if it doesn't happen, then you know you're not that his style of player. So that's obviously it'd be tough to take, but that's it. It is what it is, I guess. I suppose.
Well, mate, you said it's one man's decision. I don't think it's just one man's decision. And reports that have been...
Oh, it is. No, it is. It is. Wig told me in 2013 that only Gatland didn't want to take me. Everyone else wanted me to go. So,
but it might change this year. Yeah, it might change this year, because there's rumours, strong rumours, that Gregor Townsend is going to be the attack coach. So surely, if that gets announced on Tuesday, just drop Tooney a text and say, "Mate, I'm the best player in the Six Nations. I'm in, right?"
Yeah, I don't know how much sway Tooney would have, but no, I think it's important to get in 2017. Obviously, I think Gregor may have got asked for a role out there as well, but it was his first year in Scotland stuff. And obviously two guys went on tour that year from the Scotland squad. So I think it helps having a Scotland coach in there who knows all the boys really well, and he can try and fight the corner of some Scotland boys that he thinks good enough. And I think that's great to have, if the rumours are true, to have a Scotland coach in camp.
How has Tooney been recently, Hamish? So I don't say that kind of just throw in a throwaway line. You know, the fact that I think he is, I don't know whether it is confirmed like Goody says, but I think, you know, if there's rumours out there, it's probably true. But just seeing his evolution, I think, not just from the way that you lads are playing, but also how he engages with the media and stuff now, the access we're now getting to you lads, and the kind of profile growing around the game in Scotland, which is obviously a big thing, and it's important that happens. But just a few lines on Tooney, really. I mean, how much he's kind of grown into his role under a load of pressure before the Six Nations, and you know what it's like. You see, you know, more so on the coaches than the players that are under the pressure. But he seems to have now come through that, and he seems to be very happy.
Yeah, I think he's been awesome. Like you say, I think people on TV maybe seeing it as well, but I think definitely there's no doubt about it. He's an amazing coach, and I think when we took over in 2017, everyone knows that. But it was more sometimes our attack stuff that was always really good with Scotland, and sometimes our defence let us down and stuff like that. And I think Tooney with the backroom staff that he has now and his other staff, I think it's a really good blend, and he's a bit better at probably loosening the reins and letting defence have as much time as attack and stuff like that. So I think he's done an amazing job with Scotland, because I remember doing an interview in 2020 when I think we lost our first 2 games of the Six Nations in 2020, and it was after the World Cup and stuff like that, and everyone was saying, "Oh, Tooney's not good for the job" or whatever. And sport's such a fickle thing. I know that from being a United fan as well, and you know, 1 minute you're loving players, 1 minute you're saying they're garbage or whatever. And it's sports like that. And he then went on and won the last 3 games of 2026 Nations, and everyone was like, oh, he's amazing again. And I think the players have seen it for, was that you? Were you one of them, were you, Jim?
I think it was Jim. No. Jim was calling for his head on the rugby pod. I can tell you that.
No, I wasn't. I was going to come to it. I'll mention the question after. I'm putting my hand up because you mentioned fickle, but we'll come back to that when you finish your point.
No, so basically, it's just a point I'm making, that I think all the players can see the difference from 2017 to now as well. I think just like I said earlier about the squad environment and just the buzz in camp, and I think everyone enjoys being in camp. Obviously, it was tough being away from our families, but I think it really we did really create a great environment. That's testament to like Hoggy, the leadership group, and Gregor himself as well. So I think he's been really good.
And Jim, you were one of those guys that was calling for Tooney's head, weren't you, last year?
I don't think I was, no. I wanted to give him another 4 years. But one thing that I did want to talk about, we spoke about fickle. Producer Tim obviously gives us a load of info. We don't need as much when they're friends of the show, like yourself, Hamish. But your second cap for Scotland was against Italy in Turin, and your vice captain here was playing. It was my final outing.
Was that your last
surely cap? That was my. I know I'm as shocked as you are. I'll be honest. I'm as shocked as you are. So that was the warm-up game to the World Cup. Now I don't know if you can remember your second cap, but can you tell me straight as a mate, how the hell have I not gone to the World Cup, having trained how I did in that World Cup in 2015, and having played how I did in Turin? Have you got an answer for me? Because no one's given me one yet.
Tim Swinson, that's what I'm saying.
It's a travesty. All I remember from the 2015 World Cup was you hitting ice buckets over people's heads.
Was that? Oh, was it? Yeah. Tipping them. I was tipping them over people's heads. Yeah. What a lad, eh? What a leader.
So, Jim, you've been telling us for years how you trained the house down, and you were unbelievable in that camp, and all you did wrong was not shake Vern's hand on the breakfast after you got your last game in Turin. And Hamish, centre of the mix there, has just said, all I remember from you is just tipping ice buckets on people and whack them on the head with it. I mean, there's the legacy. There's the legacy. And killing rabbits, yeah. There's your legacy, Jim.
Yeah, we're not allowed to talk about killing rabbits for the SRU. It made the that's how, Hamish, if it wasn't for that World Cup of 2015, that training camp, we wouldn't be here now, because we made the front page of the news for a number of reasons off the back of that. So I don't want to open Hamish Watson up. He is a contracted employee of the Scotland Rugby Union, and it was a dark day on the Daily Mail saying Rabbitgate on the front of there. Hey, it made me famous or infamous, however you look at it.
Yeah, it did. I can't get you on our podcast, Hamish, without chatting about your lid, because my lid's made a remarkable recovery from when I played. But we love the mullet. What's the reasoning behind it? Is it to make up for the lack of the Scottish accent? What, a bit of Braveheart in there, or is there a bet going on, or is it just you love the mullet?
You know what? I don't really know. I've always had a bit of a mullet, and it always comes and goes a bit. I think I've been like off and on since like 2013, 2014 with a mullet, which my missus loves. But yeah, it's weird. She obviously hates it, but
does she?
Yeah, absolutely hates it. And she wants it cut ASAP. But yeah, I don't know. I just think, I just think everyone would look better with a mullet. Imagine you with a mullet.
I'd look. Hey, he had a skullet. I'd love a mullet.
I look at some people, I think, imagine him with a mullet. But yeah, it's just one of those things that I had it cut off for my wedding 2 years ago in June 2019, and I haven't had the back cut since. And yeah, it's coming to that time now though where it's getting long, and I don't want to trim it, and it's getting long, and I am thinking it's going to have to be soon, but I just haven't decided when yet.
But soon, but not yet.
We'll know you're in trouble with the missus if it all comes off then, because
yeah, exactly.
that'll be your peace offering.
And Hamish, off the back of that then, your social media has improved significantly. Now you're a superstar, which is great. And I did see on your social that there was some Rex hats being stitched with the Mullet logo. Is this correct? And am I having one soon?
What do you think? You like them?
I don't like it, mate. I absolutely love it. I'll be honest. So how is the cap company? Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that and how we can get involved? Because you're wearing a cap for the millions of people listening, but the people on YouTube will be able to see. It looks very similar to the Rugby Pod logo.
Yeah, that was to give you guys a taste of what we can do for you. We've been trying to get in contact with you for years. about doing
Mate,
some for you guys.
Now you can. Now you're going to player of the mate. You're in. Whatever you want.
Mate, it's a perfect marriage, isn't it? Because we've just signed an exclusive deal with Spotify. You're the best player in the Guinness Six Nations, and here we go. Let's get the caps out there.
Good.
We should say, Hamish, though, last time we had some caps made, I got them made, and we got about 3,000 made, and we sold about 3. So
that's because you got them made. You make them yourself.
The quality was poor. But tell us a little bit about the hat company that is now. You're going to sell millions off the back of this, so you're welcome.
Yeah. So for people that don't know it, it's called Rex Club. I own part of the company with my brother and an investor in London, and it's been going for about 8 years now. So we do all our own sort of headwear, but we also, our main like target market is team headwear. So we do a lot of the Premiership teams, a lot of the cricket stuff in the summer. And yeah, it's basically, if you have any inquiries, fire them over to Rex Club, and my brother and my little brother hand stitches them all by hand.
Well, Hamish, well, thank you very much for coming on the show, mate, and congratulations on winning the Player of the Championship award. And I don't want to jinx it, but best of luck in the red jersey against the Springboks later this year, mate.
Thank you very much, guys, and yeah, cheers for having me on.
What a boy, eh? And you know him a lot better than I do. I just know him through you, basically, so I feel like I know him really well. But yeah, I mean, honest, what a player during the Six Nations, and loves the crack, love the mullet. He's not scared to give his opinion, which I love. And yeah, I definitely think he's on that Lions tour. You can't not be on the Lions tour, can you, if you've been player of the Six Nations? He's a phenomenal player. Love the mullet. Great bloke.
He's a great bloke. He's a proper team man as well. He's a good lad, and he is very humble. But he makes a really interesting point, doesn't he? It's like, we can all talk about who we think, and Owen Farrell, should he be captain? Should he even go? Maratoji, should he be captain?
Why are you trying to get your mates back in here again? You're trying to be friends with them.
It's a rhetorical
Hamish
question,
is your real mate. Hamish is your real mate, and he's the best player.
And he should be captain. And he should be captain. But Sam Simmons is the best player in the Premiership and doesn't play for England. So that's my point. He is right. Like, it comes down to Gatland, doesn't it? So if you think with Hamish how well he's played, and you think of Stephen Jones's comments or whatever in the Times today, so he's got an opinion, whether or not it's right or wrong, and we're entitled to it, and we don't want to be divisive around it. But Hamish is right, isn't it? So for me, he's guaranteed in the squad, guaranteed, because he's a phenomenal player and what he brings. The big thing will be down to Gatland. Okay, so he's in the squad. Is he going to start? If he's going to start, then you look at all the other number 7s. So I personally think Hamish Watson should start, not just because he's a mate of mine, because he's a world-class player now.
Yeah, 100%.
But you look at the 7s that he's going to be wearing the jersey in front of, like Tipperick, Curry, Underhill, even though he didn't play, obviously, the Championship. Navidi, Van der Fleer. There's so many unbelievable players, and that's probably the point that he's making. If they want, they might want to go for a tall, rangy back row. It's one of them. So I kind of understand what he's saying when he says that, but we don't want to jinx him on here. We thought we jinxed Cooney. He was unbelievable at the weekend as well. So maybe it just all comes back round. But it's great to have Hamish on. Big congratulations to him. And we've spoken about it before, Goody, haven't we? We're now opening the doors of Scotland rugby to get lads to come on and be able to chat and be themselves and engage. And maybe some of that's off the back of them winning. Maybe that's off the back of one of their former vice captains on here, just trying to grow the game.
They were the dark days, though, Jim. The good days are here for Scotland now.
Oh, they were the horrid days, I'll be honest. They were the days of foundation. The guys who were down there digging the dirt and digging and moving shit, they're the grim days. But look what's been built now. But look what's been built.
You guys mentioned the news about Gregor Townsend potentially going to be Warren Gatland's attack coach. What did you make of that? What do you guys think of it?
Yeah, if you're not giving it to Eddie Jones to play kick chase, then the right man to get the job is Gregor Townsend. I know he wanted him, and Hamish alluded to it then, didn't he, as well? He was offered a role or a role in the coaching team in 2017, and obviously didn't take it because it was his first full year with Scotland as the head coach. And yeah, listen, Gregor Townsend, you go back to the 97 Lions tour, and people will say, oh, the game's changed or whatever. He was a catalyst in that 97 Lions tour to South Africa that helped us win it. Him playing at 10 is it's embedded in Lions history now as a huge positive for everything about it. So you now look at him as a coach. We can all see the way Scotland play. Yes, they've got some wonderful attacking threats in Finn Russell and Stuart Hogg, amongst others, but he's an attack-minded coach. So Warren Gatland needs someone like that. And you look at the options around. So obviously Stephen Jones does it for Wales. You've got Mike Catt over in Ireland, and you've probably got Gregor Townsend as the lead, not only head coach in Scotland, but he runs the attack as well. So for me, it makes perfect sense to get Gregor Townsend involved, and I think he'll do a wonderful job, hopefully. And that might push the Scottish contingency up to about 4. I'm joking, Jim. I'm joking. There'll be
14.
Yeah. So
that's the thing. Just to pick about what Goody says, he's ready now. He arguably wasn't ready in 2017. He's a much better coach now, having been through what he's been through, the pressure and stuff, and the media spotlight on him. I know, Hamish said it's been a great Six Nations. We still finished 4th, but you look at the performances, I think, is what he's starting to say now. And fair play to Gregor, he's evolved. And like Goody said, it's not a job for boys. It's not a case of Gregor Townsend gets on tour and then I will get a load of Scotland lads in. And I think one of the things that we've spoken about, and Gatland called me out on, is when we said in 2017, where he just, he picked a load of lads that he knew from Wales that were closer to New Zealand than the Scotland lads were wherever they were playing, even though they were in the southern hemisphere. Yeah, exactly. So, but I think there's an element of having Gregor on tour. Well, he'll be able to say, or in the lead up to the tour, he'll be able to say and vouch for the Scotland players, not just as players, but their characters and all these things that are really important when you throw into a Lions tour mix.
Who's your money on to be the forwards coach? Because Borthwick, Farrell and Roundtree look like they're out of the running as well, don't they?
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a few names been banded round. Do you look at it as a scrum coach and a line-out coach as two separate entities? If you do, for me, the two people that probably stand out the most, now those three have kind of ruled themselves out for one reason or another. Obviously, Matt Proudfoot with England, he was the South Africa coach the last time South Africa played a game in terms of a scrum coach. So, is that a political move? Is it someone, he's got all the IP of what South Africa have done for the last 3 or 4 years. And then
you definitely have him involved. Have him involved.
And, by all accounts, he's a great coach. So for me, you've been looking at him. And then as a line-out coach, I just think Paulie O'Connell, his history as a coach maybe isn't as detailed as a lot of the other coaches out there. But what he has done in the Lions jersey and what he did for Ireland, actually, and when you start to dig into his coaching in the Ireland setup and the difference that he made there on line-out detail, and Jim, you'll know more about this than anyone, I think he could be a massive fix, because who else are you looking at to run the line-out? Borthers did it in the last Lions tour. I don't know how. I think Paulie O'Connell would be great, but Jim, what are your thoughts?
Well, Paul O'Connell would be amazing. And this is where the vulgarities of the life that we live in now and just my thinking would come into it. So you're Paul O'Connell, you've just got the Ireland line-out gig, you're sought after commodity in the media, but as ambassadors as well for the headline sponsor of the tour. Now, I don't know how much the coaches get paid to be a Lions coach. I'd do it for free. I'd be the kit man for free. It's that big a deal. So you do wonder around, if Ireland are touring, we don't know what's happening. I'll just say it straight. How much is he going to get paid for being an ambassador for these big companies and for doing TV stuff, compared to being a line-out coach for a month? Now, he's obviously been a huge part of the heritage, but could he cash in on these deals that come around? Does he need the money? I don't know. I'm just throwing out the vulgarities that are out there.
It sounds like you're driven by money, Jim.
I am not driven by money. I am driven by opportunity. Yeah. Gats, take me, please.
That's the thing, though, isn't it? And it is, it's a fair point that Jim makes, because I've got no doubt, pre-Six Nations, before you got involved coaching the Ireland team, you probably got offers from Canterbury, the kit sponsor, the kit manufacturer. Vodafone, I know they're involved. They've got other global partners as well, Famous Grass, to be an ambassador. But then this tour is going to look very different to what would be a normal tour. If there was hundreds of thousands, maybe not hundreds of thousands, if there was 50,000 Lions fans going out to South Africa, which potentially there could have been, then there could be many opportunities. So I think he has to sum that up himself, but also Gats might think it's too early for him. It might just be us as romantics of the Lions and what Paulie's done in a short space of time with Ireland. And he may be a perfect fit. Gatland might think it's not the right time for it. So, Sam Warburton went into the World squad to be a coach at the breakdown. Didn't last very long. Didn't want to carry on that pathway and has moved out. So it's not right for everyone, but hopefully Paulie's in the mix because he's had a big impact for Ireland, I think.
Have we ruled out Scott Robinson?
Yeah, I think so.
I'd love him to go if I was going because the guy is an absolute legend. He's a friend of mine. We had a dance-off once. He might not remember it, but I think about it every night. So I'd love to see him involved, but I doubt it. He'll be over in the UK, I reckon, soon coaching.
Yeah. John Mitchell, another one that could be defence coach. Him and Gatland. I did a bit of digging. They used to share a house together, him and Gats, back in the day.
Oh, nice. Nice, huh?
And he's got a fair bit of intel in South Africa as well because
he lives in South Africa.
He lives there, doesn't he? Yeah, and he was coaching the Bulls for a bit as well, I believe.
Good one.
Yeah.
Oh, look at us just putting together a coaching team.
There's a few names, but it'll be named. The coaches are named on Tuesday morning at 9:30. So
we'll miss it.
Yeah, hot off the press. We'll talk about it next week, the confirmed ones. But I'm going with what I'd like to see is Matt Proudfoot. I'd love Sean Edwards, but I don't think he's going to get it as defence coach, and Paulie O'Connell, and perhaps Robin McBride or Steve Tannick. Just take them all. Just take everyone. We'll go as well, Jim. We'll go social.
Thanks, Goody. And Jim, while we've been recording the podcast, you've had some sad news come through, haven't you?
Yeah, I have actually, and it's a difficult one because my phone was pinging during doing the podcast that a former coach of mine, Massimo Catita, has passed away. So it seems to have been the case, and I'm heartbroken by that news. He was my scrum coach for Scotland, part of the forwards as well, part of our kind of team. And I'm absolutely gutted. Played for Italy, and the news has been confirmed. That's what I was just reading there as we were recording the podcast. And I'm heartbroken to say the least. He was a legend. He helped with the Italy Explorer when I retired. So my thoughts obviously go out to all Massimo's family, friends, former teammates, and everyone who knew him. So big shout out from here and everyone on the pod, I'm sure.
Thanks, Jim. Sorry to hear that. Our thoughts are with you and, of course, with Massimo's family. And thanks very much for listening to this episode of the Rugby Pod. Don't forget to check us out on YouTube and head over to Spotify, and we'll see you over there as well.
Rugby Pod.
Pod.